Meeting in order, let's all stand for the pledge. Chief, would you lead us?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please. Cool. Jimmy, Daryl's here.
You want me to call him or?
Yeah, we need that. All right, need a motion to adopt the agenda?
I'll make that.
All right, I'll second it. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Approval of minutes of July 29th, 2014.
I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve the minutes of April, or,
July 29th.
yeah, July 29th.
I'll second it. All in favor by saying aye.
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 Seems very strange, doesn't it, with just you and I?
We can do it.
Yes, I know we can.
All right, special orders, none. Request to be on the agenda, none. Public comments.
There is no public.
Public comments. One more time for public comments. All right, public comments are now closed. Let's go to unfinished business, none. New business, fire department, public safety assessment. Chief,
Okay,
let's talk.
well, first, we're very fortunate that we got that thing passed, right?
Yes, we are.
We're sitting here having this discussion, it's terrific. And I've got really quite going on, I'm gonna take a third lozenge, so hopefully my voice lasts. So one of the things that obviously you talk about is the fire station. You know, on the equipment side of the assessment, everything is pretty straightforward. You know, when we have to replace a nozzle or some hose or turnout gear or something. But the building is really a wild card because there's just so much to it. We've already had a lot of discussion about it. But one of the things that I need guidance on is what it is we're going to do. And based on the assessment, as I understand, the plan is to remain in the building we have, renovate it, bring it up to date. But one of those questions becomes, how do we accomplish that? When I budgeted for the assessment, you'll notice that on building renovation, on the main schedule here,
Yep.
each year there's $70,605 budgeted, even though we need just under, to completely do everything, it's just under $600,000. That was because I wanted to factor worst case. So in other words, based on the assessment, we could take this amount, finance it at 3.5%, and just get everything done and then pay it off over a 10-year period of time with the assessment. Obviously, we pay some interest with that. So that's one option, and that's what the assessment amount was based on. Okay, worst case. The second option, obviously, is to start picking away at the list of things that really need to be done, based on whatever money we have. The structural repairs alone, we're looking at around $200,000 of that. Okay, and that's some significant work. That's taking the hose tower down. That's stopping the front wall from separating any farther from the building. So however they secure that, that's what they'll do. It's the parking lot. It's the brickwork around the windows. Everything needs to be done. It's taking out the old ventilation unit and blocking all that in. It's taking care of all the joints. I forget what those joints are called in the brick as well. It's doing all of that work. And then it's redoing the back approach area to the station because that's starting to sink in areas. So that's part of what that structural repair is about. Then, of course, the other big ticket items, we have mechanical HVAC. Some of that, if we were to try and look at tackling that now, we would see an immediate savings because of the downsides of the boiler. We start getting a return on our heat bills. Okay. But along with that, you know, we've got the windows, we've got the doors. So I need guidance on how we want to approach this building
Okay.
project. Do we hire a general just to come in and say, here's the list, you schedule it out over this period of time and get it done? We've worked with the independent individual contractors to get budgetary quotes. Ron did all of that. So we could tackle it piece by piece on our own, but what's the most prudent thing to do?
Ready to open up a can of worms?
Let's do it.
Want to talk? All right. Question. Right now, well, let me ask a question. We have no, let me just make a statement first. We have no plans on a new fire station as we speak.
What do you mean by that?
Building a new fire station at a different location.
We did, years ago, did the needs assessment, did the evaluation, had an architect draw up, do the layout, and actually do the elevation drawings for a station. And that was between 2006 and 2008, I think.
But as of right now, we have no plans on building a new one
No.
now.
No.
I'm not using these funds to even start or even
That's
talk
correct.
about it. But in the future, we need to seriously, down the road, go in that direction, I believe. And then that's me, I'm just throwing that out. Right now, I don't really know if we should stick a whole lot of money into structure repairs. I'm just talking. Anybody can throw anything in that we want right now, but I just don't see us, do we want to invest in? And you caught me, you made a statement at our last meeting, and we're gonna have more of these meetings, but you made a statement, you started me thinking. All right, your comment was, do we really spend all this money if we get this assessment, which I think we're all for? We didn't know if we would, and I think now we got it, and we're shocked at this, but you made a comment that maybe we don't use all that money, and we show that to the people, all right, and we give it back so that we can go towards a new build. Do you remember making somewhat of that comment?
Yeah, I remember that, us having that
Okay.
dialogue, yeah.
And you got me thinking in that direction. Now, go ahead, your comment.
One of my questions on that is, let's say that the board, the community set a date and said, 10 years from today, we're building a new station, okay? So then one of the questions becomes, how much money gets put into this one? And then what do you do to it? Because would the building be repurposed, or would it be torn down? Are you gonna put a brand-new boiler system in the last 50 years, and somewhere between 7 and 10 years from now, or 10 years from now, it's trashed? So that's one of those questions. That one of my concerns is that if we look at building a new station even somewhere down the road, is the public then going to say, okay, what happened to all this money? You guys put $250,000 into the building. We only put a little more, less than half of what needed in there. Is the building, can it be repurposed? Is it just going to get torn down? And now all that money's gone. So it's what makes the whole building discussion kind of a challenge, because what are we going to do long-term? What do we do short-term?
Remember when you brought the numbers up about a new building and possibly a center for, like a community center?
Mhm.
And you
Yes.
showed us some plans where you'd been downstate, you'd looked at a couple other
Yes.
fire departments, and
Yes.
you brought some legitimate numbers to the table, that the number that you got here on this paper and have already been granted would pretty good chunk towards that.
Yeah, a new building, depending on site work, would run probably around 2.1 million based on what construction costs are today per square foot for commercial work.
So there's a quarter of it on the table right now.
There is, yes.
And I
Well, actually, there's more than that, because it's 70,605 is for the building over that 10-year period is what we told them. So we're really looking at 700 and what?
and
$60,000.
so, like Darryl was saying, and obviously, we didn't know if we were gonna get the grant assessment, have the assessment. And now he brought up a really interesting point that, and I see what you're saying too, if you don't spend it, you have no guarantees in 2 years you're gonna have the same board,
Correct.
or the same support, or the same, but do you think, and we're just talking, but do you think if you made the repairs that were necessary and showed the public that you didn't spend that money, they would say, because you were striving towards a new department? Just to,
I'm gonna talk out loud. We got a piece of property. Township has a piece of property that I did not think we'd ever get our hands on. And we got it. The township got it at the right price. You know which place I'm talking about, next to the cemetery. I think they call it, next to, pardon? Yeah, Carper Plaza is the place. Would that ever, is that still a site that we could put a place at?
And back in, was it 06, 07, we did the tour, and okay, we actually evaluated, we took an engineer and looked at that site, and we also looked at the property that the high school has. That was the best site for a minimal amount of site work. Where the school property has always been vacant like it is, and they were concerned about what might be underneath that dirt, where over here they're not nearly as concerned. Because that was actually at one time the IGA or something, wasn't it originally? And so they felt that site would take a lot less work, site work, to put a building on than would a vacant piece of property.
Right now, location-wise, what would that location do?
Either way, based on where we're at now, let's look at the people that come from this side of the river. They can get in here pretty easily, they can come up side streets here, they can come up Dixie Highway. Coming from my side of town, I just have the lighted State Street to deal with. Guys that come from the north, they just have the lighted State Street typically to deal with as well. Move it that way, people like Dave have a little longer response time. People coming from this way, instead of making the left to come here, they make the right to go there. Guys coming from that end will have a faster response time, so it'll affect some people different than others. What happened. But there really aren't very many locations to consider, so. There was talk, I know years ago, the DDA talked about the property next to the post office. But if you look at that with the elevation, it'd be very expensive to build on that site, very expensive.
All I'm saying is, your comment on that, going that direction, has got me thinking for future.
if you stick this money into this building, are they ever gonna okay you to build a new one?
Probably not, because they would expect to get their,
Bang for
taxpayers would
their
expect to
buck.
get their $700,000 out of it that they funded, and rightfully so. I think the backlash too, if you put this money in the building, you're going to put half of it in there, so if we only spent, $300,000, even if, in 10 years from now, it's still $300,000, it could be just gone in a rubble if the building got torn down, so.
Right, but, we aren't saying the building would get torn down, but if we would put windows, mechanical, overhead doors,
The floor needs to get addressed,
Okay.
it just gets worse every year.
right. Hold off on we're just talking, we aren't saying this is what we're doing. Just hold off on the structure, the 200,000.
Well, some of it can't wait. Some of that masonry work needs to be done now.
Okay.
We've been putting it off, and some of it's going to have to be done no matter what. The hose tower, that's a wild card. I've climbed the ladder. You climb the ladder inside the hose tower, that crack goes all the way around that thing. So at some point, it will become a problem. Is it next year or the year after? The engineer couldn't tell us that. He just said, hey, that thing needs to come down. At some point, you'll be forced to take it down. It might last another 10 years, who knows? But when the time comes, and if it starts to really be a problem, we'll have no choice. But some of that masonry work it has to get done this coming spring and summer, without doubt.
Can I ask your guys what they think?
Well, I can, I'll tell you what they think. Don't even ask me.
No, go.
Well, of course it's like a new station. Every firefighter wants a new station or a new truck or a new axe or, you know,
We're confined in storage space,
yeah.
and you always come back to the fact that there was 3 feet of water in that station, if you ever had an 86
Yeah,
type.
That's why I hate to tell you, that's why I really don't feel comfortable dumping
Yeah.
all the
reality
money in that
is
building.
It is in that floodplain.
And here's, the other issue is, I mean, I believe the way this township is going, all right, and we're going in the right direction, we're finally seeing that, okay? I don't think a new station is out of the subject in years to come, okay?
I would agree with that.
Now, if we somehow can show people that we can make do somewhat with the building we have, in the near future, we have put up a new place. And we go to work, what can we do? Can we get grants? Can we borrow money at low interest rate? I mean, get creative and see what we go with. But right now, we have to, right now, we gotta put windows, in my opinion, we gotta do windows, we gotta do doors, we gotta do floors, we gotta look at the mechanical part of it. We gotta do some things now to make this efficient.
The lighting literally has a 47-month payback. Yeah.
That kind of stuff.
Literally pay for itself with rebates and savings.
Sure.
We should, as a matter of fact, I budgeted to do that even if the assessment didn't go through.
Now, there's some things that we have to do, and I'm just thinking, all right, do we do some of these things and just try to get our hands around this stuff and say, what do we really do? What do we really do? Do we slow down on throwing all the money into that, spend it all for that, borrow $500,000 and fix that place up, or do we just, right now, go after the needed things that we have to, and then just slowly get a grip on it? Where do we go?
And that's my question. That's the guidance I'm looking for.
Priority, we need to right now prioritize, what do we really need to do right now? Efficiency, I mean, warmth, safety, floors. I think that's what we should think about, in the direction we should go, and we need, when this meeting, we are not ending this meeting, so we pick another date that we're gonna have another meeting, so we can talk, and hopefully we can get some more people here to listen, to get involved to this. And this is not, we aren't just having a meeting, going by agenda, it's discussion.
In '86, I drove a motorboat through there to get to Go Bites to work.
Yeah.
I drove a boat through there. So, really, I drove a boat through there to get to work.
I can
So,
remember that.
where,
This year we had a new washer extractor put in for washing our own turnout gear. Don't depend on anybody else anymore. Great thing for the guys. But, so we completely re-gutted and redid our utility room, right? And so the people came in and they installed the metal base for this big heavy-duty washer to sit on. And the guy comes out, he's like, I don't think I can install this. What's going on? He's pretty upset. He's like, I'm drilling down into your floor and there's this much airspace.
After the floor.
It's washed out underneath the concrete.
I believe it.
In an area.
I believe it.
Why? And that's one of the things we talked about. Was it from the flood? Or do we have some other drain thing? We had city sewer come into camera all of our drains, and they could only get so far. And, so we don't really even know what's truly going on underneath the floor at this point. We don't know if it's new from drains or whether it's still from '86.
Right.
Our floor drains, the big ones that go across the station, they never drain. There's always water sitting there. They just won't drain.
That's why I really don't, right now, I can't see myself dumping all the money into that station. Somehow we gotta come up what direction we go, right? We know, that's why I said we need to pick up, let's prioritize, we need windows, we need boiler, overhead doors. I know people are gonna say, well, you're throwing some money into it. We gotta throw some money into it because we gotta operate. We gotta make this community safe. We gotta have something, we gotta make sure that we have an area where you gentlemen are safe, and ladies.
I did just submit a grant for air pack stuff, but also for the sprinkler system for this, so $45,000 of the grant, if we're awarded it, will come off this. So there's still opportunity to save some money.
Where's your plan to build the pole building for storage?
Well, depending on setbacks in here, and Gone with Ron Wheatley would be to take down that little house, the training house across the street.
Across the street.
And put a second floor that could be a training room that we could kind of do the same thing we do with the little house.
And once again, those still in the flood zone.
Still in the floodplain, yes.
What do you think, Augie?
When you take a look at it, I mean, the floodplain is an issue, obviously. And I don't know how, or if it flooded prior to the eighties when it flooded.
I don't think, I've never seen it that high.
It
was
had,
about 100
it had
years.
like 1775 or something, or 1875, because it was the 100-year flood. And they had documented, but I don't know how well they documented, because there was nothing here.
If we were to, and again, this is just another thought, if we were to take a look at the things that need to be done in the building, make it structurally sound, the HVAC system, obviously, the windows, obviously, some of those things, storage is an issue. So if you were to get some kind of a structure across the street, to utilize some of that for storage. Talking about getting rid of one of the trucks.
Yeah, that's under the other, that's a whole different line item.
And that's gonna leave some space, obviously, I think.
Well, it allows us to put the pickup in.
Well,
So,
I don't know, it's gonna be an awfully tough sell because of the fact that if you go back to maybe the sixties when we were a growing community and went from 8,000 to 10 to 13, whatever it was at that time, are we gonna see that in the next 10 or 20 years? Where there's gonna be need for more fire apparatus or that kind of thing? You know, obviously, it would be an ideal situation if we could take all of this out of the floodplain that we deal with other than storage possibilities and put it over at that location over there along with the police department, fire department, the township offices and that kind of stuff, similar to what BV did. That would be ideal. But again, it's the issue, and it was tough getting this approved and getting the police assessment approved. And we still run into that same perception from people that, you know, they go by and you've got these shiny fire trucks, maybe you shouldn't be in as often as you do. But you got the shiny fire trucks and you got a nice looking building, and we're not getting any bigger. Why do we need a larger building?
See, that's right, I differ with you. We have more businesses coming to this town than we've ever had. We have more stores coming.
Well, I'm talking about the perception again.
No, I'm with you, but that's one thing that, where I'm nervous, okay, in future come, we keep on bringing companies here, are we gonna have a big enough facilities to keep them safe?
That's a valid concern. I'm not saying, you know, but I mean, I just present another side of it, you know, this, obviously, excuse me, obviously we would have to sell this to people as a good idea. And I don't know, I mean, Pat even says it'd be a tough thing to do.
today, right now,
Today.
yeah.
I agree with that, but
And I don't want people to start saying that, well, they had a hidden agenda, they got this assessment and right away they want to jump in and build a new fire station, because that's not what our intent was by any means.
that is not it, and I said it right up front, we have no.
Well, I
plans of
understand,
building it.
we're looking at the future, we're not looking at next year, 2 years, 5 years from now, but down the road.
That's what we're asking, if we could show them how much money we saved and didn't spend, would they say, okay,
Well,
probably not?
but I also sat over there in the center seat the one night and said that, you know, because some people were concerned that we could raise it 10% every year without having hearings and all that kind of stuff. And I I stated that we had absolutely no intent on doing that.
Correct.
And if during that period of time, if we were able to get some grant money from either the Police or the Fire,
Sure.
from the federal or state government or whatever, we would take that into consideration, and then possibly the following year, again, you'd have to go through all the numbers and everything, but reduce the assessment. And that's what we said we would do, and that's what we hope we can do. I understand what you're saying, but, and again, it's just my opinion, but.
But then most of
And
the.
then I hate to throw good money at bad or whatever, however you want to put it, you know. But I think for now, yeah, my opinion, I'm one member on the board out of 7, is that we ought to take a look at the things that we need to have done at the fire station to make it safe and comfortable and whatever else necessary. Obviously, the electrical's an issue. The heating, the HVAC is an issue, like I said, the windows are an issue, some of the cement work, some of the structural work. Doing the minimum of what's necessary. Sure.
No,
Well, I'm not sure
Understood.
we need to ask. I'm sorry.
I understood when Pat put this together, he was putting together what he needed to make this work for the next 10 years.
Correct.
Can you come back to another meeting and take this list of the existing station renovation plan and critique it and start taking some things off of it to help us get through to reduce this so we don't have to put everything into this?
We can, but if you look,
You're okay, take your time.
I didn't mean to make you choke on it. Sorry.
the two biggest ticket items, 335,000 of that is electrical and structural. 335,000 of it. Now you put the mechanical on, there's another 26,000. Fire suppression, yeah, we should have one, it's our only fire station. And actually, I never really, I've thought about this before, but it wasn't until I was writing the grant, I had to tell them how far the next stations were. You know, our nearest station to the south is almost 8 miles. Spalding's a few miles that way. BV's more than 5 miles from our location, another 3.5 just from Longview to their station. And you have Frankenmuth, it's almost 8 miles. The next nearest fire station really is not very close. And what structure do we have that we'd be able to even rent a fire truck, because you can do that. If you have a fire station, you can continue to operate. So I was writing the grant, trying to make the argument for the fire suppression system. It really kind of dawned on me, we are really kind of in a predicament by not having that. But that's one of those things that I don't think you put into a building. That's not something you, well, you really can't take it with you once you retrofit the building.
I think we gotta make some moves, let me interrupt you, I think we gotta make some moves to get going on. Number one thing is the safeties, okay? But windows, mechanical, we can get rolling on that, but then come back at another meeting, what can we trim off of here? Not to dump it in this building, and I
Well, the
know we put
structural-
a lot of work to
The
this.
structural, we can start breaking down into what those components are. But, you know, how far are we putting it off? So if we say that we're not going to hire a general and put it out for bid and just have them take care of all the structural, including the parking area and all, the approach and all that, one, are we gonna wind up spending more money because we have them do a little bit of masonry this year, and now 2 years from now, the hose tower has to come down, and then do we want to put in a new approach area and have, and then have somebody have to do demolition on top of that? So, you know, part of that is, like the windows, we probably want to make sure all the masonry's in order before we put new windows in, because they might come back and do the masonry and they'll crack. We've got a problem with windows. So I think some of that we got to be careful with how we do it, but, you know, I think the floor separation is important. They need to get connectors, however they do that, and keep that front wall from continuing separation, because that would become a big problem. But the hose tower, 2 years from now, we could be forced to take it down.
Maybe that's something that we take down now. The hose tower. If it's that,
then you're really getting into that whole $200,000 number, because that's a big part of that. How much was do you remember how much that was?
With that and the brickwork on the outside was over 100,000.
Well, you guys all are sick.
Yeah, not good. So, yeah, we can do that. We can look at this list and kind of go back and prioritize the year, even, what we think and when it should be done.
Well, right now, I think we need to step up and say, okay, what do you think we need to get rolling now? Heating, flooring, there are some things we gotta get rolling now.
Well, some of it makes sense. The heating side, we start getting a return on that investment right now.
Same with the lighting, that's a no-brainer,
Yes.
you're gonna get your kickbacks for the lighting, that's.
Yes. Matter of fact, the consumers rebates start again in January, so.
I think we gotta get rolling on some of that now, but I think the next step is we go back, what can we trim, what can we back off on? Just to show the people what we wanna do. And I'm not saying we can, or we can't. I feel the way the community is going, the way that the citizens are saying, down the road, we can put them in place. But at the same time, I don't wanna have a station that's unsafe and that cannot take care of our citizens and our businesses locally.
Out of any of that money, is anything designated to tell us why those drains won't drain?
Actually, I was going to do what Thomas Township just did, and their one station, the ones that go across the station like ours, they actually literally had new ones put in down the center of the trucks like they're doing at all the stations. They just redid them. Had the same problem. And a lot of the stations that were built around that same time are having some of the same problem. James Township just had their hose tower taken down. Saginaw Township, when they remodeled Station 2, which was on McCarty a few years ago, their hose tower had to come down. All these stations that were built around the same time are seeing some of the same issues.
I have a question. If on the floor, if you're talking the floor drain, and if we were to look at that, that means cutting down into the cement to put the drainage through. So what if you find that you have earth missing, you have dirt missing down there, and like this, and now you've just opened up a can of worms till we have
Yeah,
even
maybe.
more, we have created more issues.
We don't, but we might find some of that when they go to resurface the floor,
True.
what's underneath that. I don't believe we'd have any washout on the apparatus floor because of how thick that is. The rest of the floors aren't nearly as thick. It's only maybe a 6-inch block slab or 4-inch slab in that utility room. Yeah, I mean, the apparatus floor is probably a 8 or 12-inch slab.
Okay.
So I wouldn't expect to find that kind of an issue there. I think we would have already seen that. I mean, one of those aerials is 42,000 pounds.
I would think you'd see.
I would think it's all got heavy rewrite in it anyway.
Yeah.
Okay.
I guess probably, I mean, my feelings right now is you take a look at what, like Daryl was saying, the safety factor and what needs to be done right now, and if that's more than the $70,000, we can take a look at, finding somebody to get the money, if we have to borrow some money or whatever to get that done immediately. Because we've got it coming every year for the next 10 years, so. Interest rates are very low right now.
Right now's the time.
I mean, and when you take a look at that type of work, I mean, next year, I'm starting now. Next year, you know, the cost of living, the cost of wages, all that kind of stuff for contractors, is gonna be a little bit more, and following it a little bit more, and following it a little bit more, so even if we had to borrow the money, was able to get it at a low enough interest rate, you're probably money ahead in the long run, as opposed to doing some this year, and some this year, and some this year, you know.
Yeah, because you get a loan at 2.5% or 3.5% versus
2.3%
cost of
right now.
living and everything, material costs go up and all of that.
Exactly.
Yeah, you're right, you're probably paying more than that interest rate.
So maybe, if I may, did Wilgas, wasn't it Wilgas that looked at this, the engineers and stuff?
Yeah, the engineering company was Snyder and Staley, and Wolfgang gave us some figures on taking care of it, because they've taken down some of the hose towers. And they did the work at Saginaw Township, and I think James as well. So they were able to give us the ballpark pricing. And that's the other thing, some of it is, we haven't gone out for the official, they came in and gave us budgetary figures. So, you know, but now are they going to sharpen their pencils a little bit? Because if we were to say, okay, we are going to do the HVAC, so now we are officially asking for a quote. And here's when the work will begin, and they know, one of them knows they're going to get the job for sure. Then, you know, we may see those prices come down a little bit too.
I think that's what you need. I think we need to start looking at that, and if we need to go borrow look at where do we need for safety, get in that direction. If we need to go borrow the money, we go borrow it at a low interest rate, and we just do it, get it done.
I do a lot of work with companies that put things out for bids, and by no means is cheapest the best. I've done a lot of work with Woolgast as a company, and they are top notch. They do a really good job, and just because somebody came in $15,000 less than them, when the finished product is done, you look at the floors, you gotta go in and put hoists up on, and you look at the walls, and you look at, when Woolgast is done, it's done right. I've done a lot of work with that company, whereas I'm not a big fan of putting things out for bids. I like the thought, like Daryl said, where you say so they'll sharpen their pencil a little bit, but when somebody comes in 25 or 30 grand less, we gotta really watch that, because you're gonna get what you pay
It's
for.
always suspect when that happens.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, they're top notch at Woolgast. I mean,
Well, we don't always have to take a little bit.
No,
For sure.
I don't think we should.
Fair, we can validate going with someone a little bit higher.
And I think our purchasing guidelines require us to on that dollar amount, but we would only pick a couple of, we would pick equal competitors. So you look at a Woolgast and a Pumford, for instance. Not, you know, you wouldn't have Woolgast and Joe's Contract and
Right.
bid it. It's gotta be somebody that has that level of experience. And so you're gonna pick, it's gonna be one of the bigger players anyway. And they just have a lot of experience in this. You walked
Oh, yeah.
around, I was able to see here and here. They've done all the remodels in Saginaw Township. I think they did the work in Thomas as well.
I think we need to go back and put safety in the front. And then just go through that way and see where can we,
I like how Pat's thinking though, where he's not gonna redo something and cost more money next year.
I don't wanna do that.
Right, I mean,
Yeah.
if you're gonna redo a parking lot, it doesn't make any sense then the next year to knock your tower down on top. of
that's
the
what I'm saying.
parking lot.
I'm gonna say, if we have to do the tower, maybe we gotta do the tower.
But if we're gonna do the tower, we might as well do it all at once and be done with it.
But if you're talking to a Pumford or a Woolgas or something, they're gonna be able to tell you the progression that should occur probably.
And they might come back and say we can do the whole thing for $300,000 and we go borrow the money and do it. I don't really know. So priority, we get the safety nets and the flooring, mechanic, whatever we're saying we need to make a priority. And what can we shave off, do we, just to show the people, the citizens, where we're at, what we're talking about.
Well, there's things like when you look at the ceiling tiles, some of the cosmetic, some of the carpet needs to be replaced, but it's not a hazard. Bathrooms can wait.
What are you gonna do in the bathrooms
you're
and
not.
the kitchen for that kind of?
You're not talking a ton of money there.
No, you're not, but
Yeah,
all those little items add up. I mean, really, like I said,
Yeah.
$335,000 of the 600 is structural and electrical.
Yeah.
Sometimes just having the general come in and quote it, you wind up saving money because they're just gonna come in and put a project manager on it and get it done.
Rose?
I feel as long as Pat is comfortable in going back and reviewing some of this, do we want to ask him to just focus right now just on the station renovation and not look at some of the gear and stuffing that you've got some grants out there? Are we just focusing on the building tonight? Is that the
Yeah,
direction?
we're gonna have more meetings.
Right.
Before this meeting ends tonight, we're gonna
We'll
schedule
set-
another meeting.
Okay.
I think right now, unless you know you got something more priority right now that you need to move on, but we gotta look at that building too.
Well, the one thing we do want to begin looking at is just truck consolidation, because those are costs that will go way up. And we're having a lot of problems with with our squads, so we'll put a lot of extra money into that next year. And the price right now to sell those aerials is really high. Now the market is, there's a huge need in the market. So if we're not careful, we could see that market slide. And we did budget, part of the on apparatus was 53,552 was to make that plan happen. And that's a consideration I think we want to start looking at over the next month, because those costs will start to get. Right now, the market's perfect. It's a buyer market for new vehicles, and it's a seller market for used aerials. There's a huge need out there. So we really want to start thinking about that as well. And we also start seeing an immediate return because we'll have one less fire truck. So all the stuff that goes along with that, we start saving money on that annually. So
Okay, so
that's
right-
a discussion we want to think about having here in the future.
Within a month.
Yeah, I would,
Okay.
yeah.
All right, so why don't,
The process for that, by the way, is we send that out for bid, and it takes probably, by the time we develop the RFP and get it out, and get the bids back, it's all of 2 months. It's not a week-long thing,
Yeah.
it takes a while.
You're not out any money to get bids right now, are you?
I'm not, but that's something, I don't know if the board has to say, yes, go do it, go get the official bids. We've gotten ballpark figures, but that's another area where we think we're gonna be able to save a tremendous amount of money. Like right now, we've got a vendor that could bring that truck in that we spec'd out for about 100,000 less than we budgeted. That's one of the other things, you get a vendor that's trying to get a truck into your area that's qualified, and they're trying to enter in that market. So there's a lot of things that, right now, that the timing, that I really want us to start thinking about that, so we don't miss out on an opportunity.
would you have a problem with putting that on to next month?
No, I don't have a problem with that.
Okay, I think this, right now, we need to move ahead and prioritize where you want to go on that building.
Okay.
I mean, now,
But part of that too, that should be taking a look at the equipment. In other words, we've got structural things with the building, and then we've got equipment issues. The truck he's talking about selling, and those kind of things. If that needs to be done in the first year or 2 years or something like that, and again, we can save some money, that could be part of a package that would come to the board for us to approve, borrowing X number of dollars or whatever. And because, and then you can show in the long run where buying it now would be cheaper than putting it off 2 or 3 years. You know,
I agree. I mean,
the whole package, to me anyway, to take a look at the whole package. Bring back what should be done now, safety wise,
I'm okay if
cost
he can,
savings wise, you know, those.
I'm okay with it if he can jump that, take that much on right now.
Yeah.
I'm okay with it.
So you want to do the structural, the building part, and also the vehicles?
Yeah, that's what
Bring
if
back
he can
the
handle,
money.
bring it back, 'cause, I mean, right now, is the best time I mean, you can't get money any cheaper than you get it right now.
Exactly. And if things start to take off and inflation goes crazy and all those kind of things.
Borrow money today for 2.3%.
Yeah. I say it's save money by borrowing money.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things we've done before, we did it with wastewater, but I don't know, the water system, we borrowed from the enterprise fund, paid them more interest they were getting in the bank, but we paid less than what we would have paid, so everybody benefited, so.
We can look at it,
That's-
the board can look at it. He just said it.
Yeah. We had some discussion on that.
You got some work to do.
Yeah, it's not too bad though, because we've been at this for a
Well,
while.
yeah, he's got pretty much everything.
You know, the last 2 millages, we've gotten kind of good at this stuff.
I think this is fun, we can talk about it, okay?
Yeah, that we're actually going to be able to go ahead and get some of this stuff done
The
there.
citizens, the people told us, let's move ahead and get it done.
Well, so I think what I'll do is I'll bring Woolgast in for a meeting and have them give us a better picture of what their recommendations are too, since they've done so much of this. That they can kind of give us a proper picture.
All right,
I think Woolgas would feel better about it too, because you've spoken with them. how many times before, but now we have the assessment passed. We're here, we're talking about it, we know we're gonna do something, so I think they'll be really serious. Sharpen their pencils.
You're good?
Yeah.
Okay. Jimmy, anything?
No, good plan, got a lot talked out tonight. I think that, I think Pat's got a real good handle on everything. I think everybody would love to see a new fire department, but we've gotta have to work with what we've got with. And,
One day we'll have one.
yeah, we,
We
for
got
sure,
the area for it.
for sure.
One day we will.
I like his thoughts though on, he brought to the table a lot of good points about if they're gonna be able to save $100,000 on buying an engine next year instead of 2 years from now. I mean, it's just common sense, so.
Yeah, the vendors are hungry right now, and the squad we have now, we're gonna try to give us something to get on trade, because nobody's gonna buy that, but the aerials, there's a huge market for those. I'm getting calls regularly, are you putting it up for sale, you putting it up for sale? We should be able to get a really awesome price for that, but we don't want that market, it's like real estate, all of a sudden, there's a need.
Right, and,
Do we wanna pick a date?
yeah, that's right.
Time and tell them that too, so. And how long do you need?
If we, Darryl, if we just went
Probably
Tuesday
now,
after our
yeah,
next
okay.
meeting like we did this one, would that work for everybody?
So what you're looking at is, our next meeting is January
We have a board meeting January 6th.
6th, so we could do January 13th, what you're saying.
Yes. If you keep it on Tuesday,
I'm good.
it's easy for me to set up work that way so that I can be here.
Chief Nelson's good, I don't have a problem.
You waiting for a yes or no from Pat?
Yep.
Oh, I'm sorry, no, yeah, that's,
January 13th, that's good.
And nobody knows the offer.
take it.
I thought you were digging through
I thought
your
you
calendar
were
to make sure the
gonna-
13th
All
was
right,
all right.
let's go ahead and note for the 13th of January. I'll give you a month.
Yeah, sounded like a good drink, thanks for waking me up.
I won't go there.
Meds are kicking in.
And you're clear,
Yeah, I know what to do.
okay.
Okay,
I'm just,
we'll have it done by, no problem having it all done by
So
then.
no motion, just directing you to bring this information back.
yep, we need to move. I mean, we need to, if we can do it, now's the time to get it. Okay,
Okay.
all right. Jimmy, you wanna make a motion to adjourn?
Sure. I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second it. All in favor by saying aye?
Aye.
Good.